So that means I'm a mute.
Put it here, and I'll put it on the consecration page as well. Oh, what happened to the meeting ID number? I didn't take. Alderman, can you quote me the meeting ID number, please?
Hold on one moment. The screen is down.
Oh,
Connecting me to Facebook.
I can pull it. I can pull it. I can put it. Da da dee da da da. Got it. Da da dee dee da da da. Da da dee dee da da da. All right.
All right. So we are going live. So welcome to Thursday Night Conversations. I am Tyrell Moyd. I am Elder Ty. I am your host for this evening. Thursday Night Conversations is the Bible study for the Kingdom Covenant Ministries. So glad to have you all with us tonight. We have been going through Prayer Your Spiritual Toolbox, and this week's focus was on vision. Writing at the beginning of the year, Bishop asked us about, we've created a vision board at the church, and Bishop asked us to focus on our vision for this year, our vision for our lives. So we want to talk a little bit about being a visionary this evening and how that impacts our lives and the lives of those around us. Let me get to this screen. Sorry. And tonight I am excited because we are actually going to be joined by several of the members of Kingdom Covenant Ministries to have this conversation about vision for our lives and where we are headed. So tonight I want to start off first by asking individuals both here in our Zoom room, and then maybe if somebody could also monitor what's happening on Facebook for me, please. Thank you, Bishop. So when you think of the word visionary, what definition comes to mind when we say visionary? What is your personal definition of a visionary? I did not ask my Zoom group if you all knew how to raise your hands and things using the electronics. So, okay, so I see Sister Tam's hand. If you would unmute, go ahead.
My definition, the first thing that comes to my mind is seer. That is a seer. It is basically a person, it's kind of like a person that's forecasting the weather, but you're doing it for your own life, or vision of multiple things that you see where you can see yourself growing or changing things into. That is what my concept is.
Okay, great. Who can we grow into? Thank you. Anybody else? What's your personal definition of a visionary?
Forward thinking.
A forward thinker. Thank you. I'm jotting y'all notes. Anybody else? Welcome, Elder.
Hello, Elder.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so let's look at a few dictionary.com definitions of a visionary. How about with somebody who's on the Zoom, could I get a reader for first, let's look at the adjectives for a visionary.
Adjective for visionary is thinking about or planning the future with imagination or wisdom. An example of that would be a visionary leader.
So yeah, I think somebody had already mentioned sort of that forward thinker. You know, what do I see in my future? What do I see happening for me? Not just now, but down the line. And how about the noun version of visionary?
Noun is a person with original ideas about what the future will or could be like.
So I really love this particular definition for the fact that it has with an original idea. So even at the age that some of us are, I'll talk about myself, you know, I think about what is it that, you know, I saw myself being when I was in grade school and in high school and, you know, beyond. But now I am still getting some fresh, new, original ideas for my life. So it's really not a set time frame for these ideas, for these things that are in our life. We still have that ability to create. We still have that ability to become, even, you know, no matter what your age is. So how many of them see themselves as visionaries? All right, got a couple hands up. So how is that displayed in your life? How do you visualize? How do you what practices do you put into place for setting that vision? All right, Sister Tam, you're unmuted.
Thank you. The first thing I do is I sit down and think about how I want what the end looks like. And if I see the end of the thing, I then put my life or put my thoughts into a way that I see how do I want to get to that end, and then I start then figuring out the next step, the next step, the next step, and that becomes my plan.
Okay. And that's what's important is sort of that planning aspect, because often we'll get a great idea, we'll get a great thought, you know, we'll be inspired to do something, but more than just that inspiration to do it is that motivation. So having that plan so that I can then also be motivated to accomplish those things that I say that I want in my life. Anyone else? Any visionary techniques that you may use to stay on task, to keep that vision ever before you? Yes, Minister, sorry, Deacon Designate Katrina.
So one of the things that I do is I write down, and a lot of times the ideas that I get that are visionary aren't even for myself. I get vision for other people. And so I share it when it's appropriate. I write it down. And what I am now looking for, recognizing, you know, where I fall short, is the implementer, the person that can work with me to grab hold of the vision and who's able to do the implementation while I keep creating vision.
So really, that visionary leader. So yeah, I'm gonna write the vision, and who's gonna read it and run?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Anybody else? How do you set that vision before yourself? What are some of the things that you do to stay on task, to make sure you're on task with your vision? And maybe I should have asked, do you even have a vision for your life? You know, the church has a vision. Your job, they have a vision statement. What is your vision statement for your life?
I'm still working on that.
Still working on it.
I've spent a lot of time being wife, being mother, being daughter, being friend, that I lost myself in that. So I had to figure out who I am and where I want to go for me outside of all my other titles and my other roles. So I'm still working on it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. Thank you. Anybody else?
Elder,
Well,
can we
let's,
see that? Can we see that definition slide one more time, please?
yes. So the adjective is thinking about or planning the future with imagination and wisdom. Yeah, I meant to say this. Yes. So, and with that, I love. I always look up words. If I'm going to use a word, generally, and in my trainings, you're going to find it's going to be a definition because that's just important to me. But I love here there where this talk. I would probably take the or out of here and put and. So thinking about or planning the future with imagination. So not just staying inside that box, stretching myself a little bit, and with wisdom. So although I'm stretching myself, I'm going to use wisdom, you know, to make those steps. So if I'm going to plan for to be a millionaire, you know, again, a part of that wisdom in this planning may be if I was planning to save 10%, I might need to push that to 30 or 50 or whatever. So using wisdom within sort of that projection that we're putting out there. Because we sometimes have a vision for next week, and then we sometimes have a vision for, you know, 5 years from now. So again, using wisdom as we're developing our vision plan and visioning for our lives. Anything that you wanted to input there, Bishop? You had mentioned bringing that back up.
No, I just, I was really enjoying, I was sitting in it because when you said, when you did the comparative, you said you think you prefer the noun aspect of it. It made me look at it harder to, and more comparatively to see, to differentiate, okay, well, what is it that distinguishes the noun from the adjective? And it just made me begin to wonder, what is it the elder likes more so about the noun than the adjective? And so my mind just went there.
Okay. And I think the reading of the noun, the person with original ideas. So for me, the thing that was of the most interest to me is because now at 50 years old, really, I'm just stretching out as an entrepreneur. I'm just starting some things. So some may have said, oh, you should have done that when you were in your 20s, when you were in your 30s. But again, God is still giving me fresh, new, original ideas for myself. And I say that because there's somebody who may think that because of my past life, because of my past or whatever, that something is out of reach for them. But we always have that opportunity. We are made in the likeness of God. So we have that opportunity to be producers. So whatever it is we want to produce, whatever it is, that we see for our future, that we still have a future, we still have a hope.
Now, just like you had said, you would change the word or in the adjective with imagination and wisdom, which I love that. That's juicy. For me, I believe that when I look at that noun statement, I would take that if out. I think that if we're truly trying to establish ourselves as visionaries, then I think in order for one to be effective as a visionary, um, that could
Right.
statement, yeah. I think we could stop it with a person with original ideas about what the future will be like, rather than releasing it to the, well, it could be like this, but if this is your vision, then I encourage you to hold fast to that and to see it to its expected end.
Absolutely. So I'm Kingdom. So yes, I forgot that, but yeah, that was one of the things that I had noticed as well. And so, Bishop, do you remember when we were having the conversation about new thought and then the original thought? So a part of this original idea, again, I don't care when it's happening for you in your life. This was already God's plan. This was his original thought. What I'm doing now, this was the original thought. So having, had setbacks, having gone through what I've gone through, it was all to get me here because this was the original thought in the first place.
Absolutely. From the garden, from the very first conversation, absolutely original.
It was the original thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start our conversation first. I want to look at the scripture that Bishop Pulley used. This is a lot here, so I'm just going to read the scripture itself. Without a vision, the people perish. A vision keeps you alive and moving in the direction of your good and your divine purpose. So I just want, again, for those who are in my Zoom room, talk about your vision keeping you alive. How, or what is it about that, your vision? What is it about how you see yourself that keeps you moving forward? What is it about your vision that both inspires and motivates you in your living?
One of the ways that I keep vision fresh is by continuing to see it. It's vision. You have to keep it before you. It's important that you don't just write the vision and then lay it on a board and you forget to look at it. You have to revisit it. It's vision. Um, I wear contacts or glasses, that my vision is important to me. And so making sure that it's sharp and focused by spending time with my vision. I will revisit something that's written, and it's important not just to have a vision for myself, but I also have a vision for my family that we have posted up in our house. Everyone understands in this household, this is our vision and this is our mission statement, and we have it hanging on the wall, framed, so that we know who we represent and what we're supposed to do.
Thank you. And we're going to talk about that reading and that literally visualizing, putting our vision into actual visualization. Anyone else? Pam?
Hey, I had a couple of things. I'm just gonna piggyback off of Deacon Delegate Katrina. I was going to say I enjoy what she said, but to piggyback off of what she does, for me, the vision is stuck in me. It's kind of like when the Bible says, a word I have hidden in my heart. My visions are in my heart and they're in my head. So everything that I do more so is always asking myself questions. Is this in line with what I call myself saying that I'm going to do? Is this helping me be better at what I planned for how my vision is supposed to end? Did I seek out the right people? Did I seek out the right information to get where I said I was going? If I didn't do any of those things and my actions are not putting me in it, I don't do that thing that's going to pull me off track as best that I can. So I'm constantly thinking of ways to make it and me better, but I'm still in line with the vision.
Mm-hmm. So a part of what I'm hearing, because when I hear you say it's in your head and your heart, it's I liken that into like a seed being planted in the and planted in the ground. So it's been planted in your heart. It's been planted in your head. So these external things that's going on, how is that feeding that seed? So if the seed is there planted, so then we have to then recognize is becoming a part of this organization, is being in relationship with this person, is that going to feed this seed or is that going to choke out this seed?
Right.
Because we can lose our vision because of sometimes our surroundings. So what are we doing with that seed that has been planted? Anybody else?
So Elder White, let's if we could, just out of just for the sake of Thursday night conversation, when we think about which comes first, the chicken or the egg kind of talk, when we think of vision and we think of destiny or purpose, which comes first, vision or destiny, or which drives the other? Yeah. Can we talk about that for a minute?
Sure. Well, let's throw that out there. What do you all think? How did it happen for you? Was it the vision, the purpose? Which came first?
And for those that are watching on Facebook, please know that you can respond in the thread. And we're certainly monitoring the thread on the Facebook Live as well as the Zoom room here as well. And if those of you that are on Facebook would like to join us on Zoom, then the meeting ID number is posted, and I'll put it here in the thread as well.
Thank you.
If I could try to say how it was for me, the most of what I recalled, I would say destiny came first because I always felt like I was supposed to be somewhere else doing something else. I wasn't supposed to stay or be where I was. I just knew I was supposed to go. And there's a saying that I learned a long time ago, I can't stay here. So whatever it is, maybe a season, a month, maybe it's a week, I'm supposed to chit chat with this person to hang out. But whatever I felt that was in me leading to my vision, the destiny, I felt it. I felt like I needed to move. Whatever it was, I needed to go. And if, kind of like with blindfolded on, if you bump into something long enough, something will hit you. And find out, is that a part of what it is? And then once I figured out what I believed my destiny was, those are the things I sought out to do. And vision would come forth basically again, finding the right people and the right things in line with what I felt, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm gonna piggyback off my sister. I also think that destiny happens first. We were destined. So here's destiny, because vision to me has adapted or even evolved. The vision that I originally had, it was not as clear or as much in perspective as it is now. And so, but destiny, who I believed I was called to be, that has always been sharp. But the vision of how I got there, that has changed and evolved.
And I think for me, Bishop, that's true too. I think my purpose has actually driven then my vision. Yeah. So for me, it's been that purpose on my life, and because I would say the purpose itself has been the same, and the vision has changed. So even as I think about me being a leader and things, so what I visualized, of course, when I was young, what that meant has been a part of my purpose, that leadership. But the vision of how I actually got there and where I fit in, it didn't unfold with how I thought.
Okay. So then, for example, I heard I heard Kiana say, she said, you know, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, you know, I've got all these different roles. I've got all these different roles and these different functions. If we had to, and I don't know, you're familiar with this concept. If we had to boil it down to, Deacon Stewart, for example, if you had to boil it down to one word, for example, if you had to pick one word, and don't worry, your word doesn't have to be right tonight. This is something we can work on. But if you had one word for your life, what would that, what in this moment, what would your one word be?
My one word is as far as for my life.
For your life, like, right, like what is the one word that sums up? For example, my word is development. I believe that I am just, you know, if you know Bishop and if you know Bernard, I'm constantly under development myself. Well, okay, Bernard is constantly under development. And then if you know Bishop Hector, you know, I'm constantly, I think one of my gifts or one of the things I bring to the table is as a developer and developing leaders or developing people or, you know, developing kingdom citizens. You know, I'm developing in leadership or developing, you know, deacons or developing, you know, new members. And so I believe that, you know, my one word that I manifest in the earth is development, or as a developer.
Well, my one word would be growth. Because I'm always willing to learn and understand life, naturally and spiritually. So I would say growth.
Anyone else feel like they know their one, or, you know, would like to take a shot at tonight? I see Kelly Renee says growth. Sean Pringle says, I think the destiny was first, then the vision, because I may not even know the destiny that was preset, but then the vision of the destiny is revealed. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Sean. That's great. So we have two growths. We have Deacon Stewart that says his word is growth. We have Kelly Renee on the Facebook thread. Thank you, Kelly Renee, for sharing with us. Her one word is growth. Kiana?
So for me, I think the word for my life is beyond. And I say that because his vision, my destiny that he has created and set in place for me is far beyond what I can see. Everything that I have found myself, every role, every challenge I have found myself in, I have doubted myself and thought that I couldn't get where I ended up. So I feel like beyond is the word for me because my destiny is beyond where my vision is, which is why I'm still working on my vision. There's something greater for me than where I am. So my life, the path is still going. I'm still moving. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still stepping outside of my comfort zone because I am the introvert's introvert. So I believe that the word for my life is beyond my understanding, beyond my vision. It's just, you can add these other things behind it, but the key word is beyond.
Well, my one word, I think that sums up my life, is prototype. And I think that I am an original. There is no mold. There is not even a roadmap for where I'm going, because oftentimes I will enter into a space and I am the prototype. And then what happens after me is after I've shown up in the fullness of who God has called me to be as the prototype.
So Bishop, I'm gonna, no, you go ahead, Bishop, but I'm gonna interject here and then you can speak. Deacon designate, I promise you, you better preach that before me. I am the prototype.
Hold
Go
on,
ahead.
look. Snatch it. Let me snatch that.
You
Yeah.
put it out there. I'm gonna give you credit.
See that visionary? You see that visionary? I just.
Now,
I'm sorry,
Tam,
Bishop. Go ahead.
I'm laughing because I know 2 years ago I already preached it. So I have to go back in the archive, but it's all good. It's all good. We're fine. I'm joking. All right. So, Kiara, thank you for joining us on tonight. And Kiara, thank you for the clarity, because at first she put in the word unbelievable, and I was like, oh, is she saying, we did something, but she says, okay, my one word would be peace. I continuously chase my own happiness. I become more at peace. And the reason I've asked us to contemplate what our one word is because I believe that one word is the seed to everything else in our lives, be it your purpose, be it your destiny, be it your vision. That one word needs to be, well, let me change it. Everything else needs to be in alignment with that one word. And so, Kiana, if you don't mind me using yours as an example, Elder Moyd, am I okay?
You're great. We're great. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if and again, it may change. This is just for tonight's conversation. But let's say that your one word is beyond. Then that means that for your purpose, for your destiny, for your visualization and for your visioning, that means that you must always challenge yourself and surround yourself with people. So that means now that as your spiritual leader, I've got to always make sure that you're thinking, speaking, and behaving beyond what your human faculties believe that you can achieve and accomplish. We've got to go, and I'm not saying, we're just jumping off of cliffs and jumping off of mountains, just for the heyday of it, but that means that you are called to live a life without limit, with a life without restriction, that there is no glass ceiling for your life. That means that you see not only in the natural, but in the spiritual. And the mere fact that you use that word, and again, we got to look at that fivefold gifting. So that means that not only is there a pastor in there, but then that means we have to also surround you with prophetic people so that you can see, again, beyond, more than. Is that okay? All right. And so whatever your vision is, and Elder Moyd is going to take us into the languaging of our vision, but that vision, it will language itself to be something that sees further than just the natural scope. Sean Pringle says, learn is my word. I am the consummate student, and if I learn, then I can serve. And so that means that we have a lifelong learner, we have a lifelong grower, we have a lifelong prototype, because your one word is not seasonal. And again, it doesn't have to be right tonight. Take some time to think about it, right? But once you do decide on that one word, you don't change it like you change your shirt, or you change your gloves. That this is because again, everything that's the seed, and then the vision and the destiny, that they become the wombs and the layers to that seed, and they harness that seed. Kelly Renee says, outside the box. Don't allow the box to consume you. I'll go beyond it. Okay, you got all kinds of encouragement. I don't know these people in the natural, but they sound like they sound like my kind of people, and they're encouraging you, and I love that. Yes, so thank you for those on the thread. Please keep sharing, and we'll certainly keep reading. Elder, I apologize. Go ahead. I don't apologize, but go ahead.
Yep, that's right on time. So I want to then look at many of us are familiar with the Habakkuk verse that says, write the vision and make it plain upon the table so that he that reads it can run with it. That's Habakkuk 2:1-4. And so how important is it for you like this to write out your vision? So I know, we're all not journalers. We all don't journal. Let's talk about the importance of putting that vision to paper. Does that paper hold you accountable? Go ahead, Bishop. You can start.
Listen, listen, and we're on the World Wide Web, and so I just kind of really want to be, I want to be careful, but can I just be transparent? I'm giving myself to be transparent, right? And so, we've all been 18 before, we've all been 20 before, and in here, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Zoom, and so just an analogy that, and it's just like really burning inside me right now, Katrina, is hey, when I was on Morgan's campus. Hey, and you wanted to holler, hey, it's all good, right? And so, what? Because we had the pagers and the beepers back then, right? So, give me give me your number, right? Give me your number. Yo, what's up? Can I get your number? It's all good. So, if you want to give me your number, and I say to you, oh, just give it to me, I'll remember it. But if it's somebody that's trying to holler and I'm trying to holler back, then I'm gonna write that number down. I hope y'all are getting it, right? I think you're getting it, right? When I write that number down, that says this is something worth remembering. This is a keeper. I want to follow up with this one. Versus, oh, just tell me and I'll remember. So I just wanted to throw that in there because it just leaped up in me. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So yes, talk about writing the vision. How many have their vision written on some piece of paper? Where's your vision? On the tablets of your heart. I know. Tam gave me a thumbs up. Yours on your tablets of your heart. So yeah, why is that important? Is that important to you again? To have your vision written?
It's very important for me. I'm a visual person, and so being able to see the vision is just it helps remind me, even though I know it in my mind. I wrote a post maybe a week or two ago about vision, about and how when you write the vision, you actually take the time to write the vision, then the vision can be actualized, because now you are responsible for holding yourself accountable to the vision, and it's not just in your head and in your heart, but there it's been written, so now there are words to read and to follow.
Great, thank you. Anybody online? Talk to us about writing your vision. Have you written your vision?
We have Kiara who says, because if I freelance, not like this, I'll be all over the place. I love that. Absolutely, for me to stay on path. Kelly Renee says, Elder, she says, I like that. The tablets of the heart. Kelly Renee says, so the purpose of writing the vision is so that you can revisit. Amen. Amen.
So just jumping back real quick with that that scripture, I'm gonna bring it back up on the screen for you. Like technology, I've been literally in front of this computer all day, and it's beginning to slow down. But so here God is talking to Habakkuk, and he doesn't say only just write the vision, but he talks about first making it plain. So when we are developing our visions, writing out your vision plan, what I would implore you to do is be specific. Make it clear. I want to be rich. Okay. I want to be in good health. Be specific. If you are having some health challenges, hey, I want to be walking, 5 miles a day or whatever that go. But try to be as specific as possible, because I believe that helps shape what becomes, and how we then develop from there. So be specific. How specific are you with your with writing out your vision? How clear is your vision? If somebody else were to read your vision, how clear is it to them? When we had the opportunity to start the vision board at the church, I was really specific about the pictures I chose. I was really specific about, you know, what they represented to me. So I think back about when I was naming my company, 3C Recovery Support Training Institute. For me, the important thing is when I heard the name, what came up for me. So when you go to write it, what comes up for you? When you go to see that thing that you use as your vision poster, you know, what happens to you? Is that something positive? Are you, oh my God, yeah, I'm never going to make that goal. I'm never going to reach that because it was too lofty or whatever. But how clear are you about your vision statement?
Kelly Renee says, I have 20 journals with many visions. It's hard.
So the other part of that, I'm glad she mentioned that journals because I was in the training. We were doing a training Monday and Tuesday on self-care, and the individual who was talking about journaling went back and talked about her time for reading her journal. So I'm not a big journal. I don't journal often, but I journal from time to time. But here's the truth. It never literally, I don't know, I know I might be strange. It never dawned on me to go back and read my own journal. It literally. So I had done this writing, you know, over, and I found for me, when I did go back after she said that, when I went back and read some of those things that I had just journaled about, because for me, I wasn't journaling for vision. I was, you know, just journaling about what's happening or whatever. But I found for me when I went back and read those, some things that had come to pass. I could basically check off my list some things that I had gone through that is encouraging me, even for now, to get through what I'm going through now based on what I had written in the past. So not only write your vision, but also, and don't just write it and make it clear, but also go back and read it. Go back and revisit those things that you have written, because it says here, so that he that readeth it can run with it. So that if I write it down, I'm going back and reading it, I'm going back and studying it, I'm putting it, I'm constantly watering that seed and feeding that soil, then I can then produce that thing that I have envisioned for my life. I can then live my life on purpose. I can then live that life with purpose. What you got for me, Bishop?
Here, this chat box looks good. But yes, and so I like what I hear you saying is it really becomes that motivating force. I think I saw Kiana raise her hand a little while ago.
Okay, go ahead, Kiana. Thank you.
For me, it's kind of like, it's like writing a paper for school. So when you journal, when you first start, it's your rough draft, it's your outline, and you can then go back to it, make edits, see where you were, how far you've come. When I did journal, it was not necessarily for my vision, it was for venting and releasing things, so that I wouldn't end up in jail or something. So, you know, write it down and whew, there it goes. But to go back and look at it and see where I was compared to where I am, so that you can actually, it makes your growth tangible. We don't always see our growth. When I lost all the weight that I lost, I looked in the mirror and I didn't see it. But when people would post old pictures compared to the new pictures, I could see it. So it gives you that contrast of where you were compared to where you are. Even though you're not done, you're still going, you're still growing, but it shows you that you have done it. It shows you that you have made movement and you have pushed forward, even when you probably think that you haven't.
Mm.
Yeah. I was looking at it was one of Oprah's visioning. It's on YouTube, but they talked about, sort of writing those notes out and putting them. One gentleman talked about putting them on his mirror, and he didn't take them off till that was accomplished. So that vision, that seeing it, sort of helped him check off that list. Sort of like you did. Oh my God! Look how far I've come. Yes. Anybody else? What is how are you visualizing and actualizing? So, Bishop, it is 7:45. Should I do the video tonight or next week?
I think that you can do it. I think that we should do it, and I think that
Okay.
that gives something to then take the week. Like we have many great things to ponder for the next session. What is my one word? The video that you're going to share, and I think that it gives us time to just really continue to process, and then come back together. That's my thought.
Okay, yeah. So we're going to show you a short video. It's about 6 minutes or so. So this particular scripture, as we know, comes from Habakkuk. So I thought it would be important. So the conversation, let me back up. The conversation on visualization and visioning, we have decided it's going to be more than just this one night, just because of so much that we wanted to share and cover with you. But this will give you, like I said, a great insight on visioning. Hold on one second.
The book of the prophet Habakkuk. He lived during the final decades of Israel's southern kingdom, and it was a time of injustice and idolatry. He saw the rising threat of Babylon on the horizon, and that was not good news for anybody. But unlike the other prophets, Habakkuk does not accuse Israel. He doesn't even speak on God's behalf to the people. Rather, all of his words are addressed personally to God. And the book tells about Habakkuk's personal struggle, his journey of trying to believe that God is good when there is so much evil and tragedy in the world. And so Habakkuk's words are actually poems of lament, and they're very similar to the laments that you find in the book of Psalms. The poet lodges a complaint and then draws God's attention to suffering or injustice in the world, demanding that God do something. And knowing about this lament form, it's actually the key to understanding the design and message of this short book. Chapters 1 and 2 are framed as a back and forth argument between Habakkuk and God. And the prophet lodges 2 complaints to which God offers 2 responses. His first complaint is that life in Israel has become horrible. The Torah is neglected, resulting in violence and injustice, and it's all being tolerated by Israel's corrupt leaders. And Habakkuk, he's crying out, asking God to do something, but nothing seems to change. But then all of a sudden, God responds. He says that he's very aware of the corruption of his own people, Israel, and that he's summoning the armies of Babylon to bring down his justice on Israel. And very similar to the message of Micah or Isaiah, God says he will use this terrifying empire to devour Israel because of their injustice and evil. But Habakkuk has a problem with this answer, and so he offers his second complaint. He says Babylon is even worse than Israel. They're more corrupt, they're more violent, they've deified their own military power, they treat humans like animals, gathering them up like fish in a net, he says. They devour nations and people groups in order to build their own empire. And so Habakkuk says, how can you, a holy, good God, use such corrupt nations as your instruments in history? He demands an explanation. In fact, he depicts himself as a watchman on the city walls, waiting for God's response, which eventually comes. God tells Habakkuk to get out some tablets and chisel and write down what he sees and hears. It's a vision about an appointed time in the future, that even though it may seem slow in coming, it will eventually come. In fact, God says that the righteous person will live by their faith in this hope and vision. So what is this divine promise that Habakkuk is supposed to write down? It's that God will bring Babylon down. God says that the violence and oppression of the nations creates this never-ending cycle of revenge, and that God will use this cycle to bring about the rise and fall of nations. And the fact that God might for a time use a corrupt nation like Babylon does not mean that he endorses everything that they do. He holds all nations accountable to his justice, and so Babylon will fall along with any other nation that acts like them. God's promise is then elaborated by a series of 5 woes that describe the kinds of oppression and injustice that's perpetrated by nations like Babylon. The first 2 target unjust economic practices, like how wealthy people will charge ridiculous interest just to keep poor people in debt, and so they build their wealth through crooked means. The third woe is a critique of slave labor, treating humans like animals and threatening them with violence if they don't produce. The fourth woe targets the abuse of alcohol by irresponsible leaders. While people are suffering under their bad leadership, they're partying and wasting their money on sex and booze. And the last woe exposes idolatry, the engine that drives such nations. They have made money and power and national security into their gods, offering these allegiance at all costs. And so people become slaves to their own national empire. Now, the practices described here aren't unique to Babylon, but that's part of the point. Given the human condition, most nations eventually become Babylon. And so this is how God's answer to Habakkuk in this book becomes God's answer to all later generations, to anyone who lives in a world ruled by other Babylons. But it leaves the question hanging. Is God going to let this cycle, the rise and fall of Babylon-like empires, go on forever? And that question is what chapter 3 is about. We're told that this is a prayer of Habakkuk, and it begins by Habakkuk pleading with God to act now in the present like he has in the past, in bringing down corrupt nations. And what follows is a very ancient poem. It first describes the powerful, terrifying appearance of God. It's very similar to the opening poems of Micah and Nahum, and similar to the appearance of God at Mount Sinai in the book of Exodus. There's cloud and fire and earthquake. When the Creator shows up to confront human evil, everybody will be paying attention. Habakkuk then goes on to describe this future defeat of evil as a future exodus. So just like God came as a warrior, and he split the sea in his battle against Pharaoh, Habakkuk says that God will once more bring his judgment down on the head of the evil house. So Pharaoh, like Babylon, has become here an archetype of violent human nation. But at the same time, we're told that when God confronts evil, he will save his people and his anointed one. It's a reference to the king from the line of David. And so in this poem, the Exodus story of the past has become an image of the future Exodus God will perform. He will once again defeat evil and bring down the pharaohs and the Babylons of this world. He'll bring justice to all people and rescue the oppressed and the innocent. And it's this hope that enables Habakkuk to conclude the book with hopeful praise. Even if the world's falling apart with food shortage or drought or war or whatever, he will choose trust and joy in the covenant promises of God. And so Habakkuk, by the end of this book, becomes a shining example of how the righteous live by faith. Habakkuk recognizes just how dark and chaotic the world and our lives can become. And he invites us into a journey of faith, of trusting that God loves this world more than we do, and that he will one day deal with its evil. And that's what the book of Habakkuk is all about.
So I wanted to show that particular video because it talks about in that beginning where Habakkuk first identified for himself what he wanted to see change. So before he got the vision and before he started the writing, first identify. So your task for this week is to identify what it is that you want to see changed in your life. Habakkuk saw what was happening in the nation and felt that it was unfair. And God's reply to him wasn't that, okay, I'm just going to go and fix this. So what do you want to see change, and how do you want to see it change? So that is going to be your homework for the week. Any questions before we close out for tonight?
I do want to add that Tam did share that her one word is love.
Love. Thank you. And Deacon Designate Katrina had wrote when we were talking, let me get back to my notes, a chat box, hold on. It makes your growth tangible. When we were talking about writing out the vision, that really writing it out, having that ever before you, it makes that growth tangible for us. So thank you so much. I do appreciate everyone who was able to join us tonight. Definitely come back next week. We're going to have part 2. As we talk about writing our vision and the vision for our lives, that's just not an hour worth of conversation. So we're going to dig into it a little bit deeper. For those who are able and so desires and are able to sow into the ministry, you can do so by giving via Cash App. Our Cash App number is $KCM KCM Network. There on your screen. So thank you in advance for your gift and your giving. On Monday through Fridays at 6 a.m., our very own Deacon Designate Katrina Johnson Smith has been blessing us. I've overslept almost every day this week, but thank God it's on Facebook Live, so I'm able to go back and get it. But sacrifice. It takes a sacrifice. So get up with us Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. And I promise you it's going to bless your day. And then also on Facebook, you can find luminaries written by our very own Elder Ronaldo Casares. Bishop, tell me the name of the luminary page.
You mean on Facebook?
Yes, the Facebook Luminary page.
Oh, yes, it is Luminaries. It's okay. Grace-filled. I believe it's Grace-filled Luminaries.
Grace-filled Luminaries. I'm so sorry. Yes.
No.
So definitely check out those on your on Facebook, and then Sundays we will still be here for our Sunday supplement at 9 a.m. So please join us, and then next week right back here again, where we are still going to talk a little bit about being forgiving as we talk about vision. So meet us here next week for Thursday night conversations. I appreciate each of you, and I hope you all have a great night. Thank you. Good night, family.
Good night, Elder.